right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the BF Tailgate. My name is Stu Mathis. You can find me on Twitter at Judge Mathis. My Halloween costume this year, I'm going as Jeff Landers. Can you guys tell I put a lot of effort into this Jeff Landers costume? I think maybe I just got to sit up a little straighter, talk a little bit more douchey, and I'll be there. I will be Jeff Landers. But happy Halloween, everybody. This is the BF Tailgate. Here today with Alex Lucci, the Thigh Doctor. You can find him on Twitter at the Thigh Doctor. He's comes from the future with knowledge that the Bills have, in fact, squished the fish. We never actually dedicated to a costume to Zach. So, Zach, you can be whatever it is you want to be. Kyle is oversized hat man because the logo on his hat is oversized.
It's way too large, yeah.
And Manny, based on the background there, we're going to go with Laundry Day Manny. That is going to be his Halloween costume this year. So we've got the BF Tailgate out in full effect, heading into this post-bye week game against the Buffalo Bills. And just in time, gentlemen, for the show, the inactives have been announced. So we have Spencer Brown is inactive. Matt Breida is inactive. And then a whole host of defensive linemen, Justin Zimmer, who was dealing with an injury, F.A. Obata, Boogie Basham, and then Dawson Knox. So the Buffalo Bills going a little light today. You know, they got Cahal Waring, who will be playing in his first game as a Buffalo Bill. Andre Smith will be playing at linebacker as opposed to carrying some of these extra defensive linemen. So since, ladies and gentlemen, we have the inactives, I guess it's already time for the theme song as we head into our medical segment here to kick things off. Right, resident thigh man from the future. I'll tell you what.
Thanks for putting that up.
In your article this week, you there are two main injuries that I want to focus on before we get to Dawson Knox, because I think that's the one that most people are accustomed to by now. The conversation, he broke the hand, etc. Break down Spencer Brown's injury for us, because I think everyone in Bills Mafia is excited for the future of Spencer Brown. But when you have a player who's 6'9", 315 pounds, and 5 games into his NFL career, he's dealing with back trouble. That is something that is a little concerning, is it not?
It sure is. So what's the injury? Is it something as benign as like a little muscle strain or a little tweak of the joint in his low back, or did he blow out a disc? I think that's the big question. So listen, usually 6'9" guys have to bend a lot. Bending can put pressure on the discs in your back, and someone who looks like a beast, he looks like he lifts a lot of weight. I mean, I could totally see this guy going like, you know, full load in the week off, and then kind of injuring his back. You know, Hopefully it's not a disc issue. If it is, you know, that doesn't mean he needs surgery right away, but you know, they can try conservative treatment. But you know, he didn't even get back on the field this week, so I don't think that bodes very well.
So Go ahead. That was be my question to you is you have DNP, but then instead of listing him as out, they listed him as doubtful, which, I mean, no Sean McDermott listed player who is doubtful has ever been active. And again, that streak continues today. What was with the doubtful designation? Is there is that a sign of hope for next week?
Yeah, I say it would be. Listen, if he had a tweak in his back, if it was just like and if he's in a position where he's having spasms right now, they might think, hey, like, let's just rest him. You know, he's a big boy. If he feels good come this weekend, we can still play him. I think that's why the doubtful designation went out there. Or it could have just been some gamesmanship and they knew he was out the whole time. That's probably more the latter. But
yeah,
listen, I definitely would be worried that he's got a disc issue. What does that mean? So you can do conservative treatment. You can get the inflammation down. It can feel good, but once that discs start to go, it becomes a recurrent issue. And then eventually they're going to have to do a microdiscectomy where they kind of trim out the the jelly that's sitting in the nerve canal. And then once you've had one surgery, it's a slippery slope. So you kind of saw that with who's the DB that we were thinking about drafting? The Titans got him. Farley, right?
Farley, yeah.
So, he had the same surgery. He misses a year, goes through an off season, gets hurt training again. So like deadlift, heavy squats, going real deep with a heavy load, that's going to kind of push that juice out. We'll see what happens. I'm not trying to sound the alarm because, like I said, it could just be like a little muscle strain. We don't know.
Yeah.
There's
never
no real
information. Never want to go too deep with a heavy load. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other injury. The last injury I'm going to ask you about, and then we will bring in Clay and Evan live from the stadium. And then we'll finally let Kyle, Manny, and Zach talk. I do apologize, gentlemen. If I knew this was timed this way, I probably would have asked you to come on at 9. So I do apologize. But Alex, Dawson Knox, you did a pretty thorough breakdown of his hand injury. And then I guess it was worse than they thought. So break down that Dawson Knox injury. Should we expect him back next week, the week after? What's it looking like for Dawson Knox? And when he comes back, even if he's not 100%, how is that injury going to affect his game? Good question. All right. So first things first, I did tweet. I thought he might have broken his scaphoid, but that's in the wrist. Mm-hmm. So basically the injury mechanism, if you fall down to the ground and you hit the wrist first, you can crack a bone in your wrist. A scaphoid fracture, it does well with surgery, but it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks. But the reports kept saying hand. And then these guys got on in the bye week and they're like, oh, it's about a 3-week injury. And I'm like, well, that doesn't add up. So then I looked at the film again and it's hilarious. So he hits the wrist and now I just thought that was the injury because then he got up and he's shaking it up. But I did tweet this too. If you go in slow motion, he hits the wrist, then he slides and he starts to close his fist. And then his fist hits the toe box of the linebacker from the Titans. So he virtually, like punching a wall, that's when you'll break those bones in the middle of the hand. When you punch a wall, sometimes you hear boxer's fracture. He basically closed his hand and just hit someone's toe and then cracked the metacarpals in the middle of his hand. Mm-hmm. So if it was on the very outside, that's your pinky finger. That is the boxer's fracture. That's going to take a little slower to heal. So I kind of ruled that out because they keep saying 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. And I was like, well, that's weird. Boxers would still be 4 to 6. So it's got to be something in the middle. And then they said he had another fracture. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe 2 of them. And then it was like textbook. When we saw him in practice with the bandage kind of offset towards the pinky, big rectangle right here, I think that's middle finger and ring finger. So what is that? Go ahead. I was going to say, so by your estimation, when should we expect him back? And when he is back, is that going to affect him at all? Like ability to catch a football, ability to block, chance of re-injury, et cetera? Yeah, listen, it's pretty easy stuff. So if the fracture wasn't like totally shattered and it's just 2 little cracks, they just go in, put some brackets on there and just kind of screw it in. It works real good. It really just takes 2 weeks for the bone to start healing. Would he be limited in 2 weeks? Yeah, I don't think his grip would be great, and I think it would still kind of hurt. So, more 3 to 4 weeks would be a nice full recovery for that surgery. And with that being said, at 3 weeks would be Tuesday after the Jacksonville game. So I think they hold him out until the Jets game. They'll basically give him almost 4 full weeks of recovery. If they bring him back for Jacksonville, it's a little before 3 weeks. So I don't know if they really want to push their luck. If this was the playoffs, he definitely could play next week. Do you understand what I'm saying? But I think because we're in the middle of the season, the competition we're playing, I think they should really just take care of him, make sure he's fully healthy. He won't have to wear any brace or anything if he waits till the Jets game. So I think that's the way to go. All right. Before we bring on Clay and Evan live from the stadium to give us a report on the weather, etc., let's bring in these other wonderful hosts we have and talk about our favorite Buffalo Bill, Vernon Butler. Vernon Butler is active today. Kyle, I'm going to let you start. What is your reaction to the inactives list? Vernon, I know Justin Zimmer's hurting a little bit, but now you got Vernon Butler over guys like Boogie Basham and F.A. Obata. The Buffalo Bills are going heavy as opposed to going light. What are your thoughts on the decision they are making today?
I mean, I'm a little confused, to be completely honest. I would have rather seen Boogie Basham out there. I mean, I've never really been a big fan of Vernon Butler. I don't think he does a whole lot to help the defense as a whole. I think he's replaceable on the defensive line, like the most easily replaceable guy. So I don't know. Maybe this is just something where they're using him to try and. I've been talking to Casey a little bit recently about other players he thinks are going to play in order to potentially bump up their trade value. He thinks Harrison Phillips is one of those guys. This could be a move that they're doing with Vernon Butler, maybe, because there's not really a true place for him on this roster. Like, there's other guys who can play over him. Maybe they play him in a game like today where the trade deadline's coming up. Maybe you take the chance that he has a good player too, and someone's like, okay, I'll give you something for him. So that could be why, but I don't know. I just don't love the move personally. I would rather see other guys out there.
Zach, what are your thoughts on the inactive list and Vernon Butler?
Well, first, I just got to say that I'm sad to see that Justin Zimmer's inactive because he's been such a beast this year. I think he was like second on the defensive tackles and like snap percentage this year, which was very surprising. Like, they showed that graphic during the Chiefs game, and it was like, wow, he worked his way up the rotation. But obviously, better safe than sorry, especially against a team like the Dolphins, because you don't really have to worry about having your A game out there, as someone said in the comments. But as for Butler, I'm just gonna say this: he's a waste of space, and not in the good way that Star was in 2019. He doesn't really do anything. He goes out there, basically just stands there. Maybe he'll make a play or two, but for the most part, it's just like, why are you out there, and why are you the way that you are?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's to the point now where the worse we talk about them, the better they'll play. So honestly, just taking a couple of minutes to rip on Vernon Butler might honestly be good for his game and be good for the Buffalo Bills. But Manny, one question to you before we head over to Clay and Evan here. Matt Breida is inactive again. He's getting the TJ Yeldon treatment. I know Bryce, the football analyst on Twitter, one of his graphics, BF writer as well, one of his graphics this week listed Zach Moss on a possible trade deadline list. And his reasoning to me was, when I was like, come on, Bryce, really? Like, one of the two, 1A, 1B running backs. He said, hey, listen, Zach Moss is only averaging 3 yards per carry to Devin Singletary's 5 yards per carry. Do you think there needs to be a situation over the next couple of weeks, Manny, where Matt Breida needs to maybe be instilled into this lineup to see what he's got? Or are you content with the two running backs as they are?
I'm content with the two running backs that we have. I think we're a pass-first team, and I think we have a good enough tandem that can take us to the Super Bowl. And you also have Josh Allen, right? Josh Allen can run plays. Isaiah McKenzie, we've seen him run some trick plays in there. The one thing I did hear a lot is, I think you just brought it up too on the thing, whereas a guy like Marlon Mack could be a guy that they could bring in. He could be that potential third guy in that group, and I just don't see a fit for Breida anymore on this team, and it shows. So
yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I expressed on Thursday's what's the name of my show, the Air Raid Hour. I expressed on Thursday's Air Raid Hour that it's been a long couple of weeks. That I really do think it's the offensive line's fault. Like I mentioned, you saw what Johnson did in Cleveland a couple of weeks ago. You see what like Elijah Mitchell is doing in San Francisco, or what he did on Sunday Football. It's like, if Devin Singletary and Zach Moss run on their football team right now, people probably would have a higher opinion of them. And people might, if they were on a bad football team somewhere else right now, some people might be claiming go trade for them. So the only running back that really interests me is Miles Sanders. I know he sprained that ankle, but if we're going to go out and get a running back, go out and get a game changer. I don't know how much of a game changer Marlon Mack could be, but he certainly is something different. I mean, if you can get him on the cheap, like the Colts are willing to part, and the Colts just cut Jordan Wilkins today, so that might be a sign that they're not willing to give up on Marlon Mack. But if you can get Marlon Mack for like a 6th-round pick that you just don't think a 6th-round pick is going to make your roster, etc., and you can come in and essentially replace Mack with Breida and give the dude a shot, and you think that that's something that your football team needs, is maybe just bring in a mystery guy like that, I'm all for it. One
more thing on Zach Moss real quick. Isn't he in like the top 10 in the NFL, or wasn't he before the bye week of broken tackles? Like, I think I saw that stat before the bye week. So it's not like he isn't being effective. We're in a situation where he's having like what Singletary had last year, where he's just getting hit behind the line of scrimmage. So he doesn't have the opportunity to create some of those yards. He's still making guys miss, still breaking tackles, but you when you get hit as fast as they are sometimes, you don't have that opportunity to be as effective as you would want to be.
Yeah. All right. We are going to say goodbye to our resident thigh doctor, Alex Lucci. Alex, any final thoughts before you head out?
Yeah. I think we should trade Beasley.
All right. And with that one, ladies and gentlemen.
No. I'm on Team Keith. Don't worry. I just want to freak you guys out. All right, guys, have a good game. I think Bills win by 40, and we're gonna have a fun day.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween.
Before we bring them out, just so you know, this show is sponsored by Webcam-HD. Hey, I'm waiting for you on an 18+ stream. So this webcast, this BF Tailgate, is brought to you by webcamhd.xyz. Definitely go to that website. Definitely give them your credit information.
And
it'll be well worth your time.
So I will get on there.
There will be thigh dances. There will be thigh dances abound waiting for you. All right, so we are going to bring on live
guys. I'll see you
from the stadium. Thank you. With a weather report, we have our guys here, Clay Troya and Evan. Clay, I don't know if that. I don't know. I do not know if that. I don't know if that costume matches the costume that you were wearing last night.
It doesn't. Halloween, so we had to wear something. So I'm going to be a ripoff. At least when I'm in the stadium, I'm a ripoff. Out here, I'm pretty good still. But
yeah. So, gentlemen, I read on the weather reports today that the weather at the stadium is about 50. There's like a small percentage of rain, very little wind. It's just kind of cloudy and a little cold. Is that an accurate statement for what it's looking like down there or just outside Highmark Stadium?
Yeah, definitely. Just it's a little chilly out. It's not terrible. We've definitely had worse weather. Pretty dry. There hasn't really been much rain coming down or anything like that. So that really hasn't been too much of an issue. You've been out here a little bit longer than me. How do you feel kind of being outside for a little bit?
Yeah, the weather hasn't been that bad, honestly. I mean, there's a little rain early on, but over the last hour and a half, it's just been clear, like no rain. Obviously, the clouds are up here. It's a little chilly, but overall, it should just be a good day for football. No rain, just some clouds and some cold weather.
Now, this cold weather, do you think this is something that could affect Mr. Tua Tagovailoa, or do you think this is something his noodle arm will be able to throw through?
Obviously, this weather could affect Tua a little bit. I don't think the weather should impact Tua that much. It's not anything crazy where it should affect Tua unless it starts raining and the winds pick up. But overall, I think Tua should just be fine today. I mean, the weather could get to him depending on how it goes on for the rest of the game, but Tua should be fine weather-wise.
All right. So, gentlemen, while you are here, I definitely want to get your thoughts on the tailgate coming out of the bye week. Is Bills Mafia still just as strong and ready to go as they were the first half of the season? Or, I don't know, looking behind you, it looks a little tame.
I was going to say that. It seems a little more tame than the first half of the season. I think maybe fans have gotten their fill. It's starting to get colder, so we're going to see a little bit less of a crowd that's willing to go out and tailgate a little bit more. So, but going through, I mean, spirits seemed high still. It seemed like a very good kind of feel or vibe to the day. As I was walking through some of the tailgates, people seem to be in good again, coming out of a bye with a lot to play for. So I think people are still feeling good, maybe a little bit less of a crowd than usual.
All right, gentlemen, your audio was working great, but your video not so much. So I'm just going to ask you sort of for your parting thoughts here. Evan, paint a picture for us. How do you think this game is going to go today? How do you think the Bills are going to do?
The Bills should just jump early and get a nice early lead against the Miami Dolphins. You know, get the points up early. You know, get Josh Allen in a rhythm going into the next few weeks. Josh Allen should have a really good game against the Miami Dolphins, who are running more zone defense. They kind of stepped away from that man cover one defense. So obviously the Bills should just get rolling hard, and go up against the Miami Dolphins, put some points early, jump to an early lead, and get that win.
Clay, how about yourself? And it's just frozen on you in a hot dog costume right now, video-wise. It's pretty epic.
Then I guess you guys lucked out, so you're welcome, first of all. But I think it should be a pretty easy game for the Bills. I mean, not that any game in the NFL is easy, but the Bills have always played well against McDermott's been around. So with the weather, I think the Bills do have a slight advantage to that warm weather team. And, the Bills just have the better roster overall. And I think they really should be able to, even if it's close early, they should be able to pull away late in the game. But I still think they're going to jump out to an early lead. All they really need is a spark or two, and they're going to get flying against a team like this.
Yeah, very good. We just before we go, I'm gonna let you guys go because, like I said, the video is not quite working today. But Eddie comes in and says, "Stop calling him Josh Allen, guys. His name is Daddy." All right, so make sure that whenever you're in the stadium, you're referring to him as Daddy. Look, the cops agree. The cops agree.
Yeah, the cops agree over to the left
cops
of us.
agree. They heard the word
Right on
Daddy, and the
Abbott Road.
sirens just went off. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. Absolute pleasure having you on from the stadium as always. We're gonna get you a new phone next time, Clay. We're gonna get you a new phone. We're gonna.
Yeah,
I heard Pierre.
The connection this time.
Send Pierre a bill. He will buy you a brand new iPhone. That's coming straight from me. Pierre, Rico, they will buy you a brand new iPhone. Just send them the bill, and they will pay for it for you. All right.
I'll hold you to it.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. You guys have a good one from the stadium. A little jealous that they get to be out there in Highmark Stadium. I'm not gonna lie. It is it's a fun place to be. I enjoy being at a Bills game on a Sunday, and that's one of the things moving out here to the West Coast that I most definitely miss. So let's spend the last half hour, 45 minutes that we have here now, really honing in on this Miami Dolphins game. One of the things that people in the comment section have been expressing to me over the past week, and a lot of things that I'm seeing on Twitter expressed to me over the past week, is there's a lot of confidence in Bills Mafia coming out of a bye week, playing a 1-7 football team. The Buffalo Bills are going to come into Highmark Stadium today, and they're going to steamroll the Miami Dolphins. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to win, obviously. I think you'd have to be pretty crazy to sit here and try to justify the Miami Dolphins winning this football game. Can they win this football game? Of course they can. But to sit here before the game starts and try to justify it, yeah, you're blindly guessing at this point. But I see comments like 60 burger, 40 burger, etc. Divisional game. The Bills have the San Diego or the Los Angeles game last year, the bye week, the season before, they came out a little slow, things like that. And so do you think that maybe Bills fans are being a little too cocky heading into this football game, and it's going to be a little tighter than people imagine? Zach, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's going to be tighter than the 35-0 it was earlier in the year. Like, I still think the Bills will probably score 30+ points, but I don't see it being tight enough where it would warrant any concern from Bills fans or even the Bills players. Like, I think it would probably end up just being like something where Miami maybe lucks out and gets a couple touchdowns, but it might end up just being like garbage time for the most part.
How about you, Kyle?
So I think you have to look back at the previous games versus Miami. And every single year since Josh has been the quarterback, we've seen pretty much one close game and one blowout. The Bills have already had their blowout. I agree. I think this game is going to be a little closer than people want to admit. Not expecting anywhere near the 35-0. I agree with Zach that I think the Bills should be able to score 30+ points still. But I think the defense is going to let up some more points than we want to see, just because we've seen over the past couple of years, that's just what kind of happens against the Dolphins. We have a blowout and then we have a close game. I still think it's going to be probably somewhere around a 2-score game. It might be a 10-point game, might be a 14-point game, but I think it's going to be won by more than a touchdown, less than 2 touchdowns, or within that range. So probably closer than what you would want to see, but still nothing where you're really that nervous.
Yeah. Manny, what do you think? This game will be tight, or you think we're going to steamroll?
I think they'll get a lot of garbage time points, if you want to call fourth quarter, get a touchdown or two, or get a field goal. I think that's what's going to then make it seem like it was closer. But I think Buffalo's going to, I think, dominate the first 3 quarters, and then maybe Miami gets some points. But yeah, it'll seem a lot closer, like maybe like a 30-20 or 30-17, right, kind of score, where it looks closer, but it was because they scored most of their points in the fourth.
Yeah, we got a couple of comments here. We got Jessica Tennis coming in and says, "This is perfect. The judge is mostly wrong on how games will go." So you pick against the Bills one time. You pick against the Bills one time.
No, Judge, you're not allowed to do that. Don't you know the rules? You're not allowed to.
I said I motivated them to victory against the Kansas City Chiefs, and then they got full of themselves because I picked them against the Titans and they lost. So it's just really,
Yeah.
should I pick the Dolphins? No,
I did the same, Judge. So you're not the only one.
Kyle, Randy wants to know if he should start Mike Gesicki today as his tight end.
As much as I don't want to say yes, I think you have to. I don't know why you wouldn't start him. If there's one guy who has consistently been a problem for the Bills against the Dolphins, it's been Gesicki. So, yeah, I mean, I think you have to start him because he's one of the better tight ends in the league. If you're not starting him, who else would you be starting? Unless you have like an insane tight end lineup on your roster, then maybe consider somebody else. But if you're like almost every other person who plays fantasy football, you probably don't have 2 or 3 tight ends deep. So I would say you probably start him.
Got an interesting comment here from Tank Bull. I'm going to say Bulldog, but it could be Bulldoge. I'm not quite sure. It could be French, like Bulldoge. I don't know, but I'm going to go with Tank Bulldog. Comes in and says, any given Sunday, we have to come out and start stomping a mud hole. And this is the comment that I liked here. Unleash Epinesa on little Tua again. AJ Epinesa's been a little quiet since that Miami game. He was even inactive against the Tennessee Titans. Do we expect AJ Epinesa to get a bounce back against the Miami Dolphins? And if he does bounce back against the Miami Dolphins, is it really proving anything other than the fact that he just, owns Austin Jackson and Tua? Manny, what do you think about AJ Epinesa his past couple of weeks and what he needs to show today?
Yeah, he's been a little quiet. I think he might have a bounce back game this week. I could see another sack for him this game, but I'm curious to see with Vernon Butler and all these guys in the game how they rotate this defensive line and how much he does get to play. So,
how about you, Zach? What do you think we need to see from AJ Epinesa today?
Well, everyone talks about how Josh Allen is Miami's daddy. Well, we don't really talk enough about Epinesa being Austin Jackson's daddy. Like, I mean, he did it in college. He did it in the pros week 2. I think he could very well do it again. I don't know necessarily if he'll get any sacks or anything, but he'll probably have a similar pressure rate as he did in that week 2 matchup. And I think if he shows that, then that's great for him going forward, that maybe he works his way back into that consistent rotation.
Yeah, and it's funny too. Like AJ beat him so bad, he whipped him so bad that they kicked him inside to left guard. So if AJ Epinesa even wants to go up against Tua Tagovailoa or against Austin Jackson today, they're gonna have to get some stunts in there. Like they're gonna have to have those things where the D tackle creeps out and goes toward the edge, and the defensive end comes in, or maybe some A gap blitzes. We saw I think it was the Chicago Bears preseason game where AJ Epinesa was standing up and blitzing from the middle of the line of scrimmage. We might have even seen that in the last Dolphins game. I can't recall. I do remember seeing it in the Bears game. We had someone say something nice about us, so I want to pull that up real quick. Where was it? We had Alexander coming in saying, "Great preview, guys." We had injury reports. We had the weather check. Personal conversations, mostly just me making fun of Kyle's big ass logo hat. Chef's kiss. So thank you.
Can we just acknowledge the fact, like you've already mentioned that the logo is really large. Like the logo is potentially larger than my actual face. It's absurdly large.
Did you buy that hat like at a store, or was that like from China?
I bought it at a store. I bought it a couple years ago though, and I don't know.
Massively discounted?
I can't remember, but I really hope it was. I think I probably bought it full price.
When you bought it, did you think to yourself, like, this is a big buffalo?
I probably looked in the mirror when I bought it and was like, this is a cool hat.
Okay.
This
have you
perfect.
considered putting the buffalo on a diet? Maybe shrink it down a little bit.
I haven't, but I think we're gonna have to now. Yeah, I think we just gotta it doesn't have to be a lot, maybe just a little bit. We'll put the buffalo on the AJ Epinesa diet.
No, but Mr. Diggs comes in. It is a nice hat. I think I'm mostly speaking out of jealousy for how nice the hat is. So, yeah, we got that. Oh, Jessica wants to know now. Are we?
It's compensating for my lack of mustache. Yeah, yeah. Keep the focus up here, Jessica.
All right, so gentlemen, rolling through our notes here, I want to talk about the bye week. So the Buffalo Bills had a week off. They had a week to look at what happened the first couple of weeks of the season, analyze what went right, what went wrong, and start to try to fix some of these mistakes here. So, Kyle, I'm going to start with you. What is one thing you saw from the Buffalo Bills the first couple of weeks of the season that you think going into the bye week is something that they're going to try to improve heading into this football game against the Miami Dolphins?
I mean, I would love for them to improve just their red zone offense. I think it's a weird problem where it's a situational issue because they run on the second and long and they're not using passing downs as actual passing downs. And it's maybe a little bit of Dable being in his own head a little too much. So I think I just want to see them pass when they should pass and run when they should run. You don't have to try and get too tricky with this offense because they're actually a good offense.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to always try and hide what you're doing or try and outsmart the defense. When you have as many good players as the Bills do, just do what you should be doing. If it's a second and long, let Josh go to work. Let him be the guy who gets you those yards. If it's 3rd and 1, 2nd and 1, whatever, then I'd run Zach Moss, run Devin Singletary. Don't try and get cute with it. Just go out there and run the offense the way it should be run. I don't think that they need to try and get cute with the offense in the red zone. And sometimes it feels like they have.
And that's a great point too, because I feel like the Buffalo Bills, whenever they're trying to fix something, like whenever they're trying to fix the run game, they like go out and they're like, we're going to make the running game a point of emphasis this week. And then they make it so freaking obvious that they're doing it because they roll out like 2 tight ends and a fullback. It's like you can fix the run game out of 11 personnel. You don't need to pull out a fullback to make it look good. We got Andy C coming in saying Judge doesn't like wearing hats because he doesn't want to mess up his hair. Yeah. Also, whenever I wear hats, someone calls me Dan Lebitard. It makes me feel bad about myself. So that's another reason why the pandemic has not been nice to my waistline. Thomas Jones coming in. We got a new member. So bing, bingity, bing. Welcome to the Bing Squad, Thomas, and welcome to the Buffalo Fanatics. Thank you for becoming a member and subscribing. If you're not a member of this channel and you would enjoy this show, make sure you're liking it. Make sure you are subscribing. Make sure you're sharing. And hey, we got Rico coming on after the show as well. So Buffalo Fanatics has you covered both before and after every Buffalo Bills game. So make sure you come in and stop in after the game for Rico's breakdown. Manny, something over the bye week the Buffalo Bills you think need to fix heading into this Miami week?
I have to agree with Kyle. I think the obvious issue was the red zone offense. I think part of it is also I haven't liked some of the looks, the pre-snap looks that they've had in the red zone. I think that you have to let Allen kind of have that choice where I'd like to see more shotgun where he has the opportunity to either run the ball or throw the pass. I think that part of Allen being able to run the ball has been missing from the red zone, I believe. I haven't seen it as much as last year where they ran the ball with Allen.
Yeah. I mean, he's such an absolute freak. Like, why would you not utilize him more in those red zone situations? And we got Brendan P coming to the super chat. I always appreciate the super chats. He says, wait, Judge wants 11 personnel. He's shocked. He shook it. Anyone who ever tunes into the Air Raid Hour on Mondays and Thursdays know that whenever Tommy Sweeney, Dawson Knox, and Redney Gilliam are on the field at the same time, I have myself a little bit of a temper tantrum because I am not a big fan of heavy packages in the modern NFL. Maybe I'll get a hat with like just 11 personnel in really big letters. That may be something I'll wear that hat. I'm going to get on myself an 11 personnel hat. Wear one can make a custom hat. I have no idea.
You could also get one that says no heavy packages.
I don't know if I want to. See, I don't know if that's something that I want to. Some people might interpret that the wrong way.
What do you mean?
Some people might. Yeah, you know what? I'm a married man. I guess I can wear that around. There's no shame. Josh Allen is the next subject that I want to talk about here. He and the Buffalo Bills offense scored 35 points last game, but Allen struggled, finger quotes struggled, finishing 17 of 33 for 179 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. What is your expectations for Josh Allen this week? Zach, I'll start with you.
Well, I think he's going to go out there and he's going to light up that Dolphins defense. I think he'll probably maybe he'll start a little slow, just, shaking the rust off after the bye, but he'll get things going. He'll probably end up with close to 300 passing yards. He'll probably get the 2 passing touchdowns he needs to get that benchmark, which I think he would be the first player in NFL history to have at least 2 passing touchdowns in his first 8 career starts against a single team. I think he'll do that easily. He'll probably get a rushing touchdown too, because of course he will. Josh Allen, he always seems to get one. He just death taxes Josh Allen rushing touchdown. I think he'll just show why he's Miami's daddy. And Halloween will be an early Father's Day for him.
Manny, how about you? We're gonna see the MVP Josh Allen today. Should we already wrap it up that he's gonna be the AFC Offensive Player of the Week?
I think he'll be close. I don't know who else. I can't remember all the matchups, but I think he's probably prime candidate this week. I think I said it in the podcast with Kyle and Casey. 4 touchdowns. I think you could. I was thinking maybe 4 passing touchdowns, but I could see 3 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown for him. I think if they do utilize him in the red zone more, I think he should be able to get a rushing touchdown. So I think he's going to have a good game. I think those 2 games really affected his mental state of what he wants to be and what he wants people to believe in him. And I think after that, he was lights out.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too that I think people national people at least just don't understand about Josh Allen yet is when he has a bad game, the narrative quickly turns to like, oh, is he coming back down to earth? Is he coming back down to earth? No, the narrative is like that shit's gonna piss him off, and it's gonna fuel him, and he's gonna come back even better. So, Kyle, what do you think about Josh Allen's matchup against this Dolphins defense today, and what kind of game do you expect from him?
I expect it to be a more consistent game than he had week 2. Because I think that was probably his biggest issue, that it just felt a little inconsistent on his part. Like the offense still scored 35 points, but like you said earlier in the show, we all kind of walked away from that game being like the offense still wasn't as good as we expected them to be. And part of it was that Josh Allen just wasn't as consistent. He wasn't bad week 2. He wasn't great week 2. It was just kind of like there was definitely throws that you would want back. And so I expect that this week he gets some of those throws back. He's just more consistent. Maybe he's not 17 of 33 or whatever it was. Maybe he has like 24 of 30 or 24 of 35 or whatever, somewhere along those lines where it just feels better walking away from the game, whatever the score, however large or small the margin of victory is, because I do expect the Bills to walk away with a win. I expect the bigger thing to be that we walk away being like, oh yeah, no, Josh Allen played like Josh Allen. There wasn't too many drives where we're like, oh, we really wanted this one back. I think it's just going to be more consistent overall.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you there. So let's move on to the other side of the field now. Let's talk about a little bit about Tua. Tua over the past 2 games, 65 of 87, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks. Does that trend continue upward for Tua Tagovailoa, despite that he's 0-2 in those games, by the way? So he's probably not the Dolphins' biggest problem. Or did the Buffalo Bills maybe start to lay a foundation or a blueprint for exactly how it is to shut down Tua? Because it appeared like they were about to set that blueprint in week 2 and knocked him out like 4 plays into the game. Do the Buffalo Bills once again set that blueprint, or do the Miami Dolphins now, knowing what to expect from this Bills defense, Bills got to change some things up? Kyle, I'm going to start with you since you went last the last time. What do you expect from Tua today, and how do you expect the Bills defense to attack him?
I think it's probably going to be somewhere in between that what we saw the first couple of possessions week 2 and what he's been the last couple of weeks, statistically speaking. I don't expect him to just like go off or anything like that, but I think they'll be able to move the ball a little bit, probably score a couple touchdowns, because like I said, I think this game is going to be a little bit closer. But that being said, and this is something that like everyone's kind of noticed this year and last year against Tua, if you get pressure on him, if you don't let him throw to his first target, he's not a very good quarterback. It just hasn't been over the course of his career. That was one of the things that I think, even going back to Alabama, it's so easy to throw to your first target at Alabama because they're always wide open. So you don't really ever have to deal with that kind of issue. In the NFL, you're going up against better talent consistently. Your team doesn't have as good of talent as consistently. So I think if they can just get the pass rush going a little bit this week, which has been inconsistent for the Bills, if this is a week where they can get the pass rush going if Epinesa and Greg Rousseau have as good of a game or even like half as good of a game as they did week 2, he's going to struggle a little bit. So I think just getting pressure on him, making him hold the ball a little bit longer than he wants to, that's the key to getting him off his game. If he's getting the ball out quick, then he's going to be able to, complete some passes. The Dolphins will be able to move the ball. It won't look as good. But if you can make him hold on to the ball, he's going to struggle more.
Yeah, no, that seems like it's going to be the key for the Buffalo Bills is to make Tua hold on to that football or get to Tua really quickly because, you mentioned it, that first read, and you also mentioned that he played in Alabama, and he's got his Alabama teammate there, Jalen Waddle. If you guys ever follow Merck on Twitter, he's a great follow on Twitter. I retweeted him this morning. He said, if you're the Buffalo Bills, the number one thing you should be trying to do this game is take away Jalen Waddle. Like, Tua's going to look to get in a rhythm early, and he's going to look for Waddle. It's going to be on short passes. It's going to be on those little screen passes. If you're the Buffalo Bills, take that away and maybe even understand that Tua's going to be looking for that early and try to jump it and maybe get yourself a pick 6 early in this football game. So just understanding where Tua wants to go with the football, which it seemed like the Buffalo Bills had a pretty damn good idea of where he was going with the football last week. And just jumping those routes and making him uncomfortable, which is something I don't think he was the last 2 weeks. Atlanta doesn't have much of a pass rush, and I'm not 100% sure who they played 2 weeks ago. But, just if he gets time to throw, he was drafted number 6 overall for a reason. He's a relatively, despite the fact that he's not your prototypical franchise quarterback size and probably shouldn't have been drafted in the top 10, he's still probably a late first round caliber quarterback just because of all the intangibles he brings to the game. So yeah, if you're the Buffalo Bills, you just got to be hopping all over him, as you mentioned. Zach, what do you think in terms of Tua Tagovailoa's game? What do we got to be doing to him this weekend?
Well, I think we've already kind of discussed most of it. You got to limit Waddle, who's come on in recent weeks. He's emerged as one of his top targets. You also got to make sure to try to limit Mike Gesicki, who has been a proven bill killer in the past. I mean, week 2, they did a pretty good job of neutralizing him. I think he only had 3 catches or 4 catches for 30-some yards in week 2. And I know Levi Wallace had the interception when he was targeting Gesicki. So if you could do something like that again, then I think you would have a great chance of shutting down Tua, because if you make Tua go to his second, third, fourth read, it's going to be a problem for him. And even with the last couple of weeks where he seemed to be doing better, you could also say, was that because of the defenses he was facing, or was did something actually click? And I think today we'll find out.
Yeah.
But the key will be getting some good pressure on him too. If you could get similar pressure, I'm not expecting to see 2 safety blitzes in the first 4 plays like we did in week 2. And I'm actually still surprised that happened. But if you could get pressure with 4 or bring the occasional corner blitz, the Teron Johnson, Micah Hyde blitz, and get him rattled.
And that's the thing too, is the Buffalo Bills showed that so early last game. That might be the thing where Tua might be expecting that and flinching a little bit. And then when the Bills back off, that could be a chance for them to make a play. Jason coming in with a really good comment. He says Tua's 2 games against the Bills have been blowouts last year. And then he looked real bad. And then this year he got knocked out. Tua does not have an answer for this defense yet. Until he has an answer for this defense, you as a Buffalo Bills fan, you got to feel fairly confident heading into these Dolphins games. Dolphins inactives: Trill Williams, Preston Williams, Sheldrick Redwine, Williams and Redwine. Preston Williams and Redwine weren't injured, weren't on the injury report all week, and then didn't travel with the team. So that's a little weird. Greg Little, Hunter Long, John Jenkins, no real surprises there. But then Devontae Parker is active. Both Xavier Howard and Byron Jones are active. That falls in the Dolphins' favor. Whether Noah Igbenogany is active, whether they are 100%, who knows? They were limited most of the week, so that's something the Buffalo Bills could exploit, all of those matchups. Jerome Baker, inactive, the middle linebacker of the Miami Dolphins, and that's what I want to get to next. I want to play a little game of who is going to have a bigger game, and I'm going to throw out some scenarios to you, 1, 2, 3 players, and I want you guys to just quickly tell me who do you think is going to have the biggest game and why. And I'm going to start with Jerome Baker covering the middle of the field at inside linebacker, the tight end position. No Dawson Knox this week. It's going to fall onto practice squad Gahel Waring. It's going to fall onto Tommy Sweeney, and it's going to fall onto Reggie Gilliam to fill in these roles for Dawson Knox. So who has the bigger game? Reggie Gilliam, Gahel Waring, or Tommy Sweeney, and why? Manny, I'll start with you.
Well, look, I've been posting my bets this week, and I got a prop bet. So I have Tommy Sweeney scoring a touchdown. That's a big important part of my bet. So I'm hoping for Tommy Sweeney big game here. And you know what? I think he's serviceable. I think he's the guy you'll probably see majority at that position today. And I'm curious to see how they use him in the red zone, because I think he's got decent hands. I don't think he's Knox per se, but I think he might surprise people with another touchdown this week. So I'm hoping for a Sweeney touchdown, because $2,000 will look nice in my pocket.
Hey, Rock City Comics is with you, says Tommy Sweeney for the win. Zach, what are your thoughts? Gilliam, Waring, Sweeney, who has the biggest game and why?
If we're going based strictly on the tight end position, I'll say probably Tommy Sweeney. Like somebody said in the comments, he's more familiar with the offense. He's been around a bit longer. He was the guy who popped up after Knox got injured. He was the next man up, so he'll probably take the majority of the reps at tight end. And as much as I would love to say Reggie Gilliam breaks off like a 42-yard touchdown reception or something, that's probably not going to happen. So I'll have to say Tommy Sweeney gets most of the tight end reps. But that being said, I wonder if maybe the Bills change it up, the offensive philosophy a little bit, and maybe go more wide receiver heavy instead.
That was a conversation that I was having on Twitter yesterday with someone where they were like, yeah, I think Tommy, I was like, I think Kyle Waring's going to get a majority of the snaps. And I can explain that after Kyle gets a chance to go. He's like, no, Tommy Sweeney's going to get a majority of the snaps. And I was like, yeah, I just don't know if Tommy Sweeney's athletic enough to be out there and do what the Bills want to do when they're in 11 personnel, if they decide to go 11 personnel heavy. I think a guy like Kyle Waring is more so like Dawson Knox than a Tommy Sweeney. But if the Bills decide to run majority 10 personnel, you now get guys like Jake Kumaro, guys like Gabriel Davis who get mixed in, and then they have light. They don't use the same volume of 11 personnel packages. Then I think you would consider seeing Sweeney get a majority of those reps, probably because he knows the playbook better. But Kyle, what are your thoughts? Bigger game, Gilliam, Waring, Sweeney.
I mean, can we define bigger game here? Because like I don't think any of them really have a large statistical impact on this game. Like I think if we're talking filling Dawson Knox's shoes, I do still think that Sweeney has the best opportunity to do that, just because of literally everything that was already said. But bigger impact on the game, I think, probably falls on Reggie Gilliam, because he's going to be able to do more for the offense. If you're talking about like who's the guy leading the blocking for the run game, it's going to be Reggie Gilliam on the goal line. They're going to need him to have a good game leading the way for Zach Moss or Devin Singletary. So, and then he could also be used as a guy who is like a slip screen guy. We haven't really seen that done yet, but it's not like that's like an out of the question thing. He played tight end. Like they went back and forth on, is he a fullback? Is he a halfback? Is he a tight end? What is he? So we know he has the ability to do that. I just don't think any of them are going to really have that big statistical game. If there's one guy who has the opportunity the most, though, it's still probably Tommy Sweeney, just because of all the familiarity he has. And we've already seen him catch a touchdown pass. It's not like we've seen high value from him, but we know Josh Allen is willing to throw, the Dolphins' daddy is willing to throw the ball to Tommy Sweeney. So, like, we know he's willing to go that way if he needs to. I just don't. I think 10 personnel is probably more likely. I think it's more likely we see last year's offense.
I'm going to disagree with all three of you, and I think we're going to leave this game all Googling Kyle Waring's college highlights. Like, I think that is going to be something that a lot of people are going to be doing after this football game. I think that the guy has been on the practice squad for 7 weeks now, so he probably has a pretty thorough understanding of the playbook. I think he's the closest athletically to Dawson Knox. He was drafted in the same round, 10 picks ahead of Knox. One of the Bills equipment guys at the time said that they were stitching Waring onto a jersey when Houston selected Waring, and then 10 picks later, the Buffalo Bills took Dawson Knox. So you know that the Buffalo Bills, at least their scouting department, was pretty darn high on this kid. And Kyle Waring has got a chance now to come in and to show that, like, maybe this can become a permanent thing, and the Buffalo Bills can start, augmenting more 12 personnel into their lineup, because they have two tight ends who can go out there and do versatile things. Listen, I like Tommy Sweeney, but I like Tommy Sweeney as a TE3. He's not an athletic enough guy where people are scared when he comes out there in 12 personnel with Dawson Knox. He's not a threat on the other side of the offensive line from Dawson Knox. He's just not. So if you have Waring and when Knox comes back, you have Knox, these two like 6'5", 6'6", 240-pound guys who can go up and get it and can do multi-dimensional things on the football field. I think that sets your offense up for some real success. And I think Hal Waring has a chance today and probably a chance next week to be put into some packages, whether it's maybe a drive here, a drive there, show what he's capable of, and possibly work his way off of the practice squad and quite legitimately onto the active roster. I think this is a big couple of weeks for Hal Waring. I think this is something, I think it's something that's flying under the radar. I could be wrong. As Jessica Tennis would say, I'm mostly wrong most of the time. So I could be wrong here, but I think this is a really big audition for a guy like Hal Waring this week. All right. The next one up in the who has a bigger game category, Gabe Davis or Cole Beasley, and why? Kyle, I'm going to start with you.
Cole Beasley, because he's been more consistently involved in the offense this year, despite not being as consistently involved as he was the last 2 years. And because without Baker, the Dolphins are missing a large piece of their defense in the middle of the field. We know that Beasley is able to run those quick routes that could get open in the middle of the field or towards the sideline. So that gives him more ability to get open fast. And I think with it being something where I would like to see the Bills get the ball out a little bit quicker and just get that consistency rolling, I think he's the guy who you could see out of those two, especially considering that Gabe Davis just, despite all of the hype leading into the season, he just hasn't really been involved in the offense this year.
Yeah. Manny, what do you think? Cole Beasley or Gabe Davis, who has the bigger game?
I think Cole Beasley. I think with Baker being out, that middle of the field is going to be really free. And I'm not a big Beasley guy, but I think this is a game that I think he's going to be pretty important. And I think you'll probably see Allen throw to him quite a bit. And so I think he will. And just like Kyle said, Davis we have so much depth now with Knox coming out this year and, Singletary, Moss both playing. I think Davis is still maybe a year away from being a full-time guy on this team. So
yeah. Zach, what do you think? Why, who do you think is going to have a bigger game? Gabriel Davis or Cole Beasley?
I would have to say Cole Beasley. He's more involved in the offense. Josh Allen trusts him. I mean, not that he doesn't trust Gabriel Davis, but like you said, Gabriel Davis hasn't been as involved in the offense this year. But circling back to the whole tight end thing and why I was leading towards possibly being more wide receiver heavy, I think Gabriel Davis could replace Knox's receiving output.
Yeah.
I think he may fill in as like a big slot or whatever in the red zone, and he may end up, who knows, maybe he gets a touchdown today because he had that big clutch touchdown last year in the first game against Miami. He maybe replicates that again. And maybe the reason they weren't getting him involved this year was because Emmanuel Sanders emerged and because Dawson Knox emerged and because maybe there was some lingering doubt about his ankle injury, but he's been weeks removed from that. So I think it was just a matter of time before they get him back in there.
All right, Kyle, we know you got to head out here at 12:30. So paint a picture for us. What is this game going to look like today, and what's your score prediction?
So I think that it's probably going to be a little bit closer than we want in the first half. Probably something where at halftime it's still a one-score game, and then maybe the Bills kind of take off a little bit in the second half because they are just the better team. I do think that there's going to be a situation in the red zone where Josh Allen converts a 4th and 1 on a QB sneak, and we're all really excited and also a little bit hurt by it because we wanted it to happen last game. But I think it's going to happen this week. We're going to get our 4th and 1. I think the Bills win 38-24. High-scoring game. We're not really going to see any sort of big effect by weather, it sounds like. So we don't have any worry from that. And like I've said kind of this whole time, I think that the Dolphins will be able to move the ball better than they did and score a little bit more, obviously, a lot more than they did week 2. I think you still walk away feeling good about the offense and the defense, despite the Dolphins being able to put up some points, because I think some of it does happen in that fourth quarter where we're not really as worried. But I think it's still a 14-point game. Bills get the win, and we walk away confident.
All right. Thank you so much, Kyle. Always appreciate it. You can find Kyle Knapp and Manny every Friday on Knapp Knows Buffalo podcast. You can find it on all major podcasting platforms, as well as simulcast or replayed here on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube page. And that drops every Friday morning as well. So thank you so much, Kyle. Enjoy the game. Don't feed the buffalo on your hat too much. All right.
I'll try not to. I'll try not to.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. Always appreciate it. We gotta go Bills. We got a comment here from Matthew Ronsky. He says, Judge, you always do this. Well, I got just my camera here now real quick. Hold up. There we go. He says, Judge, you're always doing this with players. Not sure if it's because you like the name or developed an unreasonable crush on some player scouted pre-draft. Oh, it's 100% because I develop an unreasonable crush on someone I've scouted pre-draft. Anyone who knows me knows I love scouting college football and watching college football and keeping an eye on prospects. Cahale Waring, I had him higher than Dawson Knox on my draft board. If both of them were on the board, I would have advocated for the Buffalo Bills taking Waring over Dawson Knox. Clearly, I was wrong. But the talent is there with a guy like Cahale Waring. He went to an absolute dumpster fire in Houston, was not developed correctly, suffered some injuries early on in his career. So when you look at it, you have Tommy Sweeney, a 7th round pick, who everyone said Tommy Sweeney is going to be a career third tight end because he just lacks that athleticism it takes to be a multi-dimensional first or second string tight end in the National Football League. But it was a great pick for the Buffalo Bills in the 7th round because he'll be here for a decade and he'll pass block and, he can be your second and third tight end, etc. Then you have a guy like Cahale Waring, who was super raw coming out of San Diego State. Pretty much just as raw as a guy like Dawson Knox, who played quarterback in high school. Guy who's 6'6", 240, can go up and get it. And he was drafted by the Houston Texans and not developed correctly. So if you're the Buffalo Bills, dude's still mid-20s. Like he's not an old man, right? There's still some development left in him. And we've seen the Buffalo Bills, unlike the Houston Texans, develop some players. Look at Dawson Knox. This is Exhibit A. The Buffalo Bills have a tight ends coach in Rob Boris, who's been doing this for a long time. So if you have a guy like Cahale Waring, who spent 7 weeks on your practice squad, why would you not want to go see what you got with that new toy, especially when you're going up against a team like the Miami Dolphins this week and a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars next week? I really do think that this is a player in Cahale Waring, who's been sitting on our practice squad for the last 7 weeks, who could legitimately be a part of this team's future moving forward if he shows something in these 2 games. So could I be dead wrong? Hell yes, I could be dead wrong, but it's just something that I'm prognosticating. It's something that I see some developmental talent. I see more upside in a Cahale Waring than I do a Tommy Sweeney. And that's not a knock on Tommy Sweeney because I think he's an NFL caliber tight end. All right. Got about 15 minutes left. So let's play a couple more rounds of who has a bigger game. This one's going to be tricky. And people in the comment sections, feel free to let us know what you think here. Devin Singletary or Zach Moss, who has a bigger game and why? Zach, I'll start with you.
Yeah, this one is probably the trickiest one of the bunch because they go with the hot hand, but you don't really know who the hot hand is until you get into the game. So I think based on how they've been using the running backs so far this year, I would say that maybe I want to say Singletary because they seem to use him more early on and that he may be able to get a bunch of yards early on. Not necessarily the 43-yard rushing touchdown or whatever he had week 2, but I kind of want to say Zach Moss because like somebody just mentioned, red zone opportunities. He's the better receiving back of the 2. And I feel like Zach Moss is just kind of got a bit more playmaking ability than Singletary at this point in the season.
How about Manny? What do you think? You going with Singletary? You going with Moss?
I agree with Zach. I think in the red zone they do use Moss a lot just because he's that type of back, the big, if you want to call it bruising back, he's basically our bruising back. But I'd like to see Singletary. I think there's something different about Singletary this year. I'm waiting for that one breakout game, and I hope it's one of these 3 weeks. That's what I'm hoping for. But I think it's going to be Moss a little bit more, but I could see Singletary have a really good game this week too. I could see him get, the 60, 70 yards, which is, I think, decent for Singletary.
Yeah. We got Jeffrey Danger coming in saying, I like Singletary, but Moss looks a little bit more natural sometimes. And yeah, and it's weird because I would agree with that sentiment, but you look at the statistics, Devin Singletary, 5.1 yards per carry,
Yeah.
Zach Moss, 3 yards per carry. So statistically speaking, right now, yards per carry on a per carry basis, Devin Singletary is outperforming Zach Moss by 2 whole yards. So that's interesting, but that's also not taking into account the passing game where Zach Moss has been a heck of a lot better than Devin Singletary. I'm going to cheat here. I'm just going with a push. I think both of them are going to have like 50, 60 yards. I think both of them have equal opportunity like this week. Zach Moss will probably have more of an opportunity in the red zone, but I think both of them have just as good of a chance to score as the other. So I'm going to go with a push. I wouldn't be surprised if they each end the game with 50, 60 yards, and then one of them has a touchdown, the other doesn't, or both of them have a touchdown. But yeah, I'm going to go with a push this week. I think the Bills are going to try to run the ball more this week, mostly just to hold the ball and hold possession and control possession of this football game and try not to just give Miami too many cracks, to score points. So the longer you can drive the ball down the field, the longer it takes you to drive, obviously, the less chance Miami has of getting the ball and scoring. So I think the Buffalo Bills will work on their possession game this week and sort of dinking and dunking down the field. So I think both these guys are going to be pretty involved in the offense today. Manny, did you have something to say? Look, you had something to say real quick.
Yeah, like they really remind me of the way Arizona uses Connor and Edmonds. It's a very similar way. They're a passing team too, and they don't run them much. But they could both have Connor and Edmonds equally have great games. Connor gets more of the touchdowns, kind of like Moss in the red zone, and Edmonds is more of that guy early on. But I think like a lot of people slam on these guys, but I think they're a perfect tandem for us. I honestly, for our system of the way we play, they're a perfect 1-2 guy.
All right. So last one here. And I guess this one doesn't really matter who you pick because if one of them has a big game, the Buffalo Bills are probably going to do well. Emmanuel Sanders or Stephon Diggs? Who has a better game and why? Manny, I'll start with you.
Well, Emmanuel Sanders, because I have him on my fantasy team, so I want him to score. And I have Josh Allen, so I want the double points. So,
yeah.
But I think there's some sort of connection that these two have, Allen and Sanders. What we were lacking in Brown for the last year or so. There's that piece that I was looking in Brown. You got in Sanders, that speed down, straight down, and Allen's been hitting him. I think a lot of teams have recognized how important Diggs is, and Diggs is going to get his catches. He's going to get his yards. But I think Sanders 2 touchdowns today. I honestly think so.
Zach, who you got?
I'm going to say yes. I think Stephon Diggs, obviously Stephon Diggs is the wide receiver 1. He's our main receiver. This year, it's been a little different. It seems like they put more of an emphasis on Emmanuel Sanders, and Emmanuel Sanders has rewarded that focus. And I think both of them will ball out. I don't necessarily think that Diggs will have like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, but I think he'll have a good game. Like, he'll certainly put a good game. Sanders probably receiving-wise will have more than Diggs, but I think Allen distributes the ball equally. He gets all 3 of the top receivers, Beasley, Diggs, Sanders, involved, and maybe even sneaks a touchdown pass Gabriel Davis's way. I think everyone's going to have a solid game, but we may not see somebody with that
stand out
offensive player of the week game.
Yeah.
I think also after last year, Diggs, a lot of defenses have put emphasis on Diggs and making sure Diggs is not involved. So that puts the opportunity out for a player like Sanders to have big games.
And he's still on pace for 100 catches and 1,000 yards too. So
which is crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, that just goes to show you how good of a quarterback that Josh Allen is becoming, and the fact that he's a perennial MVP, and that regression people in national media like to talk about is just not about to rear its ugly head. Working in Sanders and Diggs' favor this week, I guess in their favor and not in their favor. Not in their favor is Byron Jones, Xavier Howard are back. In their favor is both of them are pretty dinged up and we're limited in practice all week. So it'll be interesting to see how healthy Howard and Byron Jones are. Noah Igbenogany is also coming off of an injury and was limited in practice all week. So the Buffalo Bills hopefully can exploit this secondary. I think what might have been you, Zach, at the top of the show, who mentioned this, or it might have even been Evan when he was on from the stadium. The Miami Dolphins like to play man-to-man defense. They can't get a pass rush to save their life, and they can't, and their DBs are dinged up. That is a recipe for disaster. Why? Because people can just start picking apart man-to-man defenses. So if Miami starts to come out in man and can't get a pass rush, you have a bunch of dinged up players in the secondary that Josh Allen could take advantage of, especially if he can move in the pocket, get out, scramble, do his thing outside of the pocket. Those corners are not going to be able to keep up with our wide receivers. On the other hand, if they decide to drop back into zone, you now have the secondary doing things that they are uncomfortable doing, and they've shown they are not comfortable doing, dropping back into those zones. So those are all keys and things that should forecast a pretty good day for one Joshua Allen and the Buffalo Bills wide receivers. So let's transition now to the defense, because we haven't really talked about defense too much yet. It's Halloween, right? So which player by the end of this football game is going to end up scaring Tua the most? What Buffalo Bills player is going to have a standout game? Zach, I'll start with you.
I have two answers for this. One of them we already mentioned, AJ Epinesa being scary to Austin Jackson because he's his boogeyman. And then I want to focus more on Groot because I think he'll be more scary. He's been very scary this year, actually. Just in terms of physicality, his physical attributes, he has those long arms, which I think really help him keep his distance from offensive tackles. It also helped him when he tipped Mahomes' pass and got the pick. Just him being out there, he just probably scares opposing QBs enough where he can impact the game in multiple ways, not necessarily just by getting sacks or pressures, but also if he can get his arms free and up in the air, he'll be a nightmare to try to throw around. So I would have to say Groot.
Manny, how about yourself?
Last game, he was a beast, and I think Teron Johnson. I think there's going to be those little sneaky blitz that Teron or Micah Hyde are going to come down on. I think he was a big part of that defense that scared Tua right at the beginning, and then even after with Jacoby Brissett, I think Teron is the guy who's going to be the scary guy. Because he's not going to be expecting him. Groot and AJ, we know he's coming. But Teron is the guy that will sneak up and probably get a little hit on Tua there.
Yeah, I was going to go with Groot myself. I mean, the guy had 2 sacks last game. He is going up against Jesse Davis there, the right tackle. He's Tua's blind side, so it's a good matchup for him. I would expect I'm looking for Groot to get a strip sack at some point this game. My prediction for the last game was 2 sacks and a strip sack. He got the 2 sacks. He didn't get the strip sack. I really want to see him get that strip sack this week, playing on Tua's blind side. But since Groot is off the board, I'm going to go with the safety tandem of Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. I mean, it's going to be their job today to really get into Tua's head and rattle him, to disguise the coverages, to take away those first reads. So to me, Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde are going to be super important, and they're going to have to cause a lot of nightmares for the opposing offense to Tagovailoa. I'm towards the end of the show here, so I'm starting to space because we got 3 minutes left. So my apologies for sort of losing it mid-sentence there, but let's get now to game predictions. Manny, I will start with you. Paint a picture for us. How does this game end up?
I think the Bills score early, and first quarter they dominate, and they will roll over the Dolphins pretty much. I was going to say Titans, but I think Dolphins score a couple late scores in the fourth, and Allen has a big game, should be potential offensive player of the week, and Teron Johnson maybe gets another pick 6 in this game, and then Bills win 34-13.
All right, Manny, I'm sorry, not Manny. Zach, what do you got?
I think that the Tua will be seeing ghosts at Highmark. It'll be his house of horrors. I think that, Josh Allen is obviously Miami's boogeyman. He's going to go off, like I mentioned earlier in the show. He'll continue doing that. On the defensive side of the ball, I think, like you said, Groot is going to be primed for a big game. He'll probably get a sack, maybe a strip sack too. I think that we see at least 2 interceptions from Tua. I don't really can't really off the top of my head specify who I think will get those interceptions, but I think the Bills get at least 2 interceptions and at least 1 forced fumble.
Interesting.
And
all right. Oh, you still going? Sorry.
And then for score wise, I will say, I guess it'll be bigger than bet. It'll probably be closer than people think, but I still think the Bills win by a couple scores. I will say 38-24.
All right. My prediction is going to be 30-20 Buffalo. I think it's a little bit closer than people think, but hear me out here. 30 points for the Buffalo Bills means 3 touchdowns and 6 field goals. That means the Buffalo Bills score on 6 possessions of this football game, which I think is a ton of points. I think with Dawson Knox out, I think the red zone is still a problem. It's still going to be a problem for the Buffalo Bills. So again, those 3 field goals instead of 3 touchdowns on some of those possessions. And I think Miami scores a touchdown late to make it a little closer than it is. But I think the Buffalo Bills do win this game comfortably. And I was waiting for a Dolphins fan to show up, and one finally showed up. Says, "Who the hell do you guys think y'all are? You 3 jabronis will eat crow. I promise you, dude. Your team is 1-6. Your team wants to trade for a fucking quarterback who's been accused of like sexually assaulting like 20 plus women because they're so desperate. Like, literally, why are you here trying to talk shit to us? Like, there's no shit you can talk. You have no leg to stand on. You can come talk to us Monday if your team wins the football game. But I mean, dude, really? Official Contreras says Dolphins are going to come out pissed. They were week 17 last year. It was winning to get into the playoffs, and they fucking got the doors blown off by our backups. So so again, maybe I'm being a little too, prideful here, but I said it before when this show started. If you are prognosticating a Miami Dolphins victory today, you are doing it based on guts and not facts. And there's really not a scenario that anyone can lay out and a prediction based on anything other than your gut that tells you that they think the Miami Dolphins have a matchup to win and go out with this football game. If the Miami Dolphins win this football game today, it's because the Buffalo Bills didn't show up to do what they had to do to get the job done. Because one team is a good football team, an ascending football team, and the other team is a team that's about to fire their whole coaching staff and fire their whole front office and hit reset on a rebuild again for the second time because they've wasted all that draft capital over the last couple of years. Cameron says, take it easy. I'm starting to feel bad for them. No, never feel bad for a Dolphins fan. All right, ladies and gentlemen, 15 minutes till game time. Go get your snacks. Time to grill some Dolphins, says Largemouth Hunter. Go get your snacks. Go update your fantasy team. I have Julio Jones starting, and he's hurt, so I got to go change my fantasy team right now. And until next time, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.